Thanks for joining us today. We'll start with some introductions so you can get to know us a little bit more because we're probably going to spend the next 45 minutes or so together. Will, do you want to start?
Sure. My name's Wil Reidie. Um, I write a newsletter that I've been writing for about 3 years now, um, and it's very often been about food and my experience cooking in restaurants in London, Sweden, and briefly Finland. But it involves a lot of other things, really, progressively more so, just about life in Sweden, life in Finland, life as an immigrant, and it's really kind of just expanded over the years into a place for me to uh, share what matters to me and what I kind of choose to write about, which has been a lot of fun so far, I suppose.
I've been following your escapades for a few years now. My name's Elle, and I'm a reader of Will's newsletter. I'm also a writer. Last year, I burned out from overwork, and so I guess that kind of makes me an expert on my own recovery, at least. Maybe some of what you'll hear today will help you too. That's the dream. But really, we're going to talk about the calm that can sometimes come from the kitchen and how surprising yourself with what's in your store cupboard can really fire up your creativity. And even chit chatting while your hands are busy can be just as therapeutic as an hour on the analyst's couch. So, I really want to start with your Substack, Wil Reidie's Winter Book. For those people who are new to you, can you share a little bit about what it is and why you started it?
Sure. Well, I started it in just after Christmas in 2023, because I just finished like a really big writing project. It was a proper, manuscript I'd finished. It was a memoir of my first year or so, first couple of years living in Finland. It was a kind of real return to my interest in writing that manuscript. For the past best part of the decade, I'd been cooking, which I started doing in my late 20s. So my interest in writing had taken a back seat. So I started writing again with this memoir, and I finished it, and I just wanted, and I was sending it up to agents and seeing if it would get any interest, and during that process of sending it out, I just wanted to find an excuse to write again, and I thought, well, I have such fond memories of cooking in Sweden, in Stockholm, and I've got a kind of quite self-contained story there to write about, for my mother and my three friends in London, because I have, no social media following at that point, no nothing. So I sent out what was going to be the first of a few chapters of my experience cooking in London and then retraining as a cook at like 29, which is such an old age for most cooks who normally start at 15 and the dish fit. And that the newsletter was called the Recovering Line Cook at that point, because it was, me looking back, recovering from having to work such long hours and weekends and never seeing my kids and my wife. Um, and after about a year or so, that memoir, that self-contained story of 5 years living in Stockholm and cooking, came to an end. And then by that point, I'd started to write more about just generally about fatherhood, life in Sweden and then Finland, where I was living at the time and still am. And Doing recipes. And so the newsletter just slowly became a platform for my writing and my interests, not just like the recipe of the week or a kitchen
Mm.
memoir. And that's why I changed the name of it now to Winter Book, which I like the openness of it and the kind of less defined cooking kind of feel of it, even though food will always be important to it. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the uh, newsletter now and how it's come to be what it is.
What are some of the things that you've learned along the way as you've grown and changed, and what have you enjoyed? What have you found difficult?
What in like writing online
Mm,
and
mm,
um uh I think, well, important is just to have confidence in what you're interested in. I think it can be really easy, especially because the platform I use that we're using today is very popular. It's very easy to see what other people are doing and what other people what's working for other people. And the moment I've ever in the past started to think, crikey, what could work? What could entertain people? What could do numbers? Whatever. It's just been a bad idea for me. So you know I'd always recommend just trying to focus on what you find interesting, what you're passionate about, what you want to sound like, and to keep writing. One of the only success I'd take with any well, the only real success I've had on writing a newsletter is it's nothing to do with numbers or how many people read it. It's just that I've managed to keep doing it.
Mm.
Um, uh, for the most part of the 3 years, I've sent out something every week. I've not 100%, but largely, and that's just been great for me to grow as someone who's writing more and more and trying to um, find the kind of things I want to write about. So yeah, that's probably key to me.
I think you're so right about that confidence and not comparing yourself to other people. I mean, food writing anyway, let alone on Substack, is a crowded market, right? And actually, the things that I really like about your storytelling is that it feels more memoir. It's more personal. There's more of a connection that I can feel when I'm reading it.
Well, that's nice to hear. I mean, um, I I don't I love to read. Even when I wasn't writing during my cooking years, my full time cooking years, working those 60-hour days, weekends, things like that. Um, I was always reading, and uh, I don't know how what I read and what I like to read influences me or um, is influence how I write. But I know what I think I like to sound like. I'm not interested in. There are so many. I mean, more and more every week, I'll find a remarkable chef that I admire with their own new Substack, and I'd never want to compete with what they're doing in terms of quantity and uh, um, consistency of recipes and guides and things like that. And I'm just really trying to carve out some admittedly very small niche, which speaks to just what I want to sound like and what I want to talk about. I mean, there were moments like early on when people started to, other than my mother and my three friends in London, to read my newsletter. I thought, oh shit, maybe I can, maybe I can become a recipe, right? Get loads of, maybe this is the start of something really big. But it's just been clear to me that as much as I love to share the food I like to eat on my newsletter, and I always will, like the idea of being in my kitchen when there's finite number of writing hours in the day to spend it developing new recipes on top of the countless recipes that I see with random ingredients every week just seems dreadful to me. And that I've got you know well a very busy life, two wonderful children that are just number one priority. Any free time to write is very precious, and I want that to be precisely the kind of stuff I want to write about.
Mm.
Um, and any time, like developing recipes, for example, would be uh, uh, far too big a time expense on as much as popular as that stuff is, obviously on the platform that we use.
Mm. I think you're so right about voice. I think that voice has allowed you to build that connection with your readers. And I suppose that's where you started expanding the newsletter a little bit into cooking classes, right?
Yeah, I thought that was. Yeah, I mean, that idea came out of nowhere really, other than the fact that I'd stepped back from restaurant cooking, um, which I started doing again full time here in Finland. There's a bit of a tester really to see if it was, because I started doing it for the first time full time since having kids here in Finland a couple of years after my daughter was born. And I thought, let's see how it goes. I loved cooking in restaurants. Um, uh, will it work personally? Because the important thing for me is being with my kids as much as I can. So let's see how it goes. And after 6 months, it was just, clear to me. I mean, because of the way my work was structured, I'd basically go an entire week without seeing my kids other than for an hour in the morning at a time.
Mm.
So it just wasn't going to work. So I stepped back from that, and I had, as I thought about my next steps, I um, had more time, of course, and I thought it was about a year ago now. I thought about cooking classes, and it's just been. I mean, obviously, it could be very easy to have had nobody interested because it's hard enough getting people to sign up for an email, let alone a cooking class, and it's just been lovely. I mean, not only has everybody that's got involved been so pleasant, there's been no strange, awkward, classes with anybody who, is, well, what can I say, or, unusual or unpleasant. But, uh, yeah, it's uh, just been such a positive experience. I mean, it's a, there's, so much to be bothered about by the internet, but to be able to be here in my little kitchen in not even the biggest city in Finland, and to be able to talk online for a couple of hours, to cook, simple or more elaborate stuff with the reader has been it's just been lovely. Great
Mm.
fun for me. I hope, and it seems of benefit to people who've been uh, supporting me by getting involved. Um, so yeah, and yeah, I'm hoping to do more of it, of course, this year. It was a really, really great start last year. And yeah, now that I'm again a bit more, a bit less busy
Mm.
from now on for the rest of the summer, hopefully, uh, yeah, um, it'll go strength to strength. It's been great fun.
Well, that's kind of how we got to know each other because I decided that I would buy my niece a cooking class. She's 10,
Yes,
11,
of
and she
course.
loves food. And I thought, oh, that'd be a really nice gift. We can do it together. It won't be at all stressful having, 10-year-old child wielding knives in my kitchen. But that's how I kind of came to you with the request, and it was a bit of a random one. I'm not sure if you'd had anyone asking for that sort of lesson before.
No, no, that was and remains the youngest person to get involved. But it was such a pleasure. I've had a few more like uh teenagers, older teenagers,
Mhm.
um uh student sorts, you understand, since then. And who are like given us gifts. And it's been really nice actually, because normally when that happens, a bit like your class, the person who knows who this weird, hideous English guy is doing it with the person they've given it as a gift. So yeah, it's been really fun those where there's like two people getting involved.
Mm. How did
Um,
you respond to that brief initially and think of what we might do together?
well, the whole process really, even a year ago. I mean, when I started selling these classes, I don't know. No, I don't know if you would remember because I think a little bit before you were getting involved. I sold them for like peanuts. They were like 20 or 30 euros for like a 2 hour class. It was like a real testing even like the technology of it all. I had no idea, I can barely wind a quartz watch, whatever. But yeah, so I had to figure out how this all works, and of course just how it works to actually do it, because I never, all the teaching I'd done had been with, youngsters in kitchens, not over a video call thing. So I mean, how does, you know somebody who hasn't done that, you know actually do it? So that's why it was so crazy. uh I mean, when I was doing those first classes, I wasn't even really covering the ingredients for them. I think it was like 30 euros or something to the paid subscribers. So it was really just, proof of concept, they'd say it on a hideous ways. But uh so when you were asking about like a gift for a youngster, kind of something simple. That was just another step in the learning. It's like, okay, well, that's an interesting idea. And I think I even added like an option, so a really simple dish. I think you and I did lasagna actually.
Mm,
So it doesn't talk to the kind of brief that I've normally been given, which was like, you know, leaning into my experience in the Nordic kitchens, etc.
mm,
Um, but yeah, so it was really lovely thing to a request to get because I mean, I just obviously that's an enormous, you know, group of people who are keen but wouldn't know where to start, And something like lasagna is just a great choice because there's like 800 things you can do to make lasagna bad or really good. And that's what I like about cooking. It's not, jellified this or, foam, whatever. It's these little steps that take ages,
mm,
or not ages as much as just care and thought. And you end up making something really lovely, whether that's a lasagna or something,
mm.
a little bit actually.
Yeah, I want to say to you that it was a real bonding experience. And it was nice. It was nice to do together. I did find it a bit stressful just watching her attention span leaking as the, as the 2 hours got closer to the end.
That
But
wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. Don't you remember what she had been doing? She hadn't slept or something the night before, or isn't
yeah,
that right?
it was a bad idea. She'd had a sleepover the night before, but do you know she still talks about it now? And I
Oh,
guess that whole experience, which is very cute, that whole experience though did make me think, I really want to do more of this, but I want to do it by myself. I want to
well,
brush
I
up
mean,
on.
that makes perfect sense. I mean, that reminds when I was about 18, I think. Um, and I'm saying this because cooking on your own is important for anybody who loves to cook. I
Mm,
mean, there's a joke like I think I've seen it 100 times on Instagram or TikTok or something, and it's like the best thing you can do for somebody is not to help them in the kitchen because they never want that help. I remember once I was 18, I was at college before university, and oh yeah, I remember now. I was doing drama A level. A level is like high school in England. Uh, and my mother was, for some reason, after a performance, talking to my drama teacher, and I'd done a path. I was doing the pathway which was directing, not acting in the drama. Normally, you did the acting, but I elected to do the directing. And my mother said something like, or my teacher said something. Yeah, Will is very he's quite strong-willed, a bit difficult. He wasn't being complimentary at all. And my mother went, yeah. My mother tells me this story. I wasn't there. My mother said, "Oh yeah, you should try, cooking with him." And my drama teacher was like, "I don't think I'd ever want to do that with him." But so yeah, I appreciate if your niece would want to cook alone. That's a very healthy and very uh sensible thing to do, I think.
I think how I was feeling at the time, I'd sort of left work a couple of months earlier, just quit my job.
Hmm.
They'd changed, I'd changed, lots of things had changed, and I really needed some space. And I felt really vulnerable at the time, and like I didn't know what to do with my life. And I was just relying on, in fact, I called this like thing that we're talking about today, like we're worth more than toast for tea, because that is what I was doing. I was just making myself some toast because I just got to the end of the day and I just thought, I haven't got the energy. I don't know what to do. I haven't got the cognitive space to create
Hmm.
something for myself. And maybe I don't even think I'm worth making something lovely for myself. It was a really tricky time. And I thought, when I had this thing with Jemima, I just thought, actually, this is what I need to sort me out. This is, it's an investment in myself. Um, and just kind of, I think I'd been in a work situation where there'd been a lot of like really high stakes, and I really just needed to lower the stakes and get back to basics and like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, just like feed yourself properly, sleep properly, all those things. And then I was a bit nervous to approach you, not because we hadn't had a nice time or anything, but just more like, "Oh, can I do this for me? Is that okay?" Almost.
Mm.
And then we sort of sat down and had our little one-to-one, and you said, "What do you want to cook, Elle?" And I almost cried. It was so weird because I just was like, "I get to choose. This is something for me." And that was really powerful. And I I can't remember where it went from there. Did we talk about, like, going into the store cupboard? Was that where it started?
Yeah, that I think that was where it started. Uh, I think you'd mentioned one moment. My little boy is asking something. What's that, sweetheart? Okay. He's talking to his sister, not me.
Mhm.
Yeah. I remember that because I'd been impressed by the gear you had in your kitchen and also the ingredients you had. I think I picked up on that during the class we did with your niece. And you'd mentioned, the things you have, and you're not getting through them. You're not using them all. You've got, this packet of some grain, and um, um, and it was a great range of things. And so that was where the idea came from. It was like, what do we have, and
Mm,
what can we use? Because okay, one moment, darling. Um, so that's where it started. Um, Yeah,
yeah.
and there are plenty of options because you've got a hell of a pantry. Much better and more organized than mine, I think.
I think this is the thing. I had so much stuff because I do really like cooking in normal times, and just wasn't getting through it. And I just thought I need to find some inspiration from my own store cupboards because I read a lot. I read a lot of different recipes, and I just thought, what can I build a bit of a repertoire around some simple staples that are gonna, help me out, not give me too much to think about, but are a nice kind of method to follow. And so I pretty much sent you a list of what I had, and you went from there
A
to
long
find.
list, a really long list, but that was very helpful. And you know, I think there was pretty much everything there we wanted to start from. Grains, uh, spices, things like that. Yeah, yeah, it was very helpful, definitely.
Mm. And so you kind of came up with what I'd call probably bespoke classes that were like, here are these ingredients. What are we going to make? I think it was five that we ended up doing. We just did our last one last week, which
Yeah.
I'm sad about because that was really nice. But they, what I found from doing them is, someone who loves food but was a bit tired and a bit fed up with cooking, was just that love for ingredients again, and really simple
Mm.
ingredients. So last week we made cod with like a herb stem pesto and this gorgeous pearl barley stew, which was incredible. But I've been so surprised along like each of the recipes, the things that I've picked up and the way that you can enhance flavor by doing something just completely differently to how you thought. I've been thrilled.
That's lovely. I mean, that was really important to me. I was really excited that you wanted to do something not just a one-off, but with a real idea behind it, which was you've got all this great stuff to cook, um, and uh, and an interest in the kind of simple things you can do to get the most out of them. And the the majority of what I've done to in my cooking in restaurants is not. I've done plenty of the most ridiculous, fine dining things. I've written about in the past taking the little skin from in between onion layers to drying them off, and then when they're dry, you kind of burn them slightly on a hot plate, and then you garnish little tarts with it, and that's an onion ghost in the restaurant I worked. I've done plenty of that, but what was really lovely, what I brought to your classes was, the stuff that really matters. It's, you know, lightly curing fish before you cook it. It was making use of the stems in this pesto and then blitzing it until it splits, so that
Mm.
it works properly.
Mm.
Um, I
Learning.
was really lucky. My cooking experience from day one, from all the restaurants that I worked at. You know, the benefit of these restaurants, the kind of restaurant I worked at, was you were involved in learning meaningful things from day one. You weren't just
Mm,
taking the peel out of onions. You were also doing some interesting stuff. And
mm,
um and there's so much of that. It's what I love wasting time on when I cook. It's just these, little things which make a big difference. And
mm,
that's what's really therapeutic to me about cooking. Um, it's these meaningful steps that can take time. They might take a little bit of effort, but they're meaningful.
mm,
It's that I get bored of the food. I will never. I mean, I that's a lot of the fine dining restaurants I worked at. I wouldn't have been able to afford or been interested in eating at because so much effort goes into stuff I'm not interested in. Um, and sure, definitely with what I've been writing about, and what we were doing in the classes, and other clients, is just really focusing on the stuff that matters. And yeah, that's been really interesting to me, and hopefully of use to you.
mm. I remember the first class we had. You'd asked me to like make a labneh cheese overnight,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
um, you know, at first you think, "Oh, that's really difficult and something I'm going to have to stress about doing." And actually, you broke down the process so simply for me. It's just like chucking a bit of something in something and then seeing it the next morning.
yeah, yeah. This is a really great. What I love so much about having been, a full time proper restaurant cook. I'm a
Mm,
fake one now. I do a little part time work here and there. But one of the first things you learn, one of the most important things you learn, is how like big jobs, big
mm,
weekend projects.
mm,
If you're a normal person, which I used to be, now I'm, you know, hideously, faulty and tortured, having done what I've done. But you figure out quickly in restaurants that these big jobs, like these daunting things, are like, just get it done. It's 12:30, after
mm,
service. We need to hurry up and do it. And so like that strained sour cream thing we're talking about,
mm,
which is like labneh. It's just mix it with something, hang it. The next day it'll be ready. Same with like fermenting or pickling carrots. What sounds like a big project. It's just, simple stuff. And
mm,
you can do it really, with a little guidance. It's very straightforward, and it needs to be in a restaurant because you need to get it done. Um, so yeah, definitely. I'm glad you say that because a lot of these really lovely things are very simple. Yes, darling.
mm.
Okay, in a minute. Sorry, my daughter and my son are here today. They're off. One of them's off sick, poorly, but the other one is just joining for fun.
They
One
sound like
minute.
they're
Let
having
me
fun.
let me help my daughter with something. I'll be back in a second.
No worries.
I'll get back to you. Yeah. Okay,
All right.
where were we?
We were just talking about things that sound hard are actually easier when you break them down. I think sometimes you, especially with cooking, if you see like, I don't know, a 3 hour recipe in front of you, it, if you break it down into its component parts and actually your method of planning, I really like just breaking things down into the most logical order and getting that flow before you start makes such a difference.
Yeah, I remember. I remember. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's. I've heard spoken about as though you're making multiple versions of yourself, getting certain jobs started. Like a classic example would be get your stock boiling before you start chopping your onions,
Mm,
because the stock is working while you're chopping your onions. It's simple as that. But if you can kind of apply that thinking, getting something roasting, boiling, then you do the hands-on stuff.
mm,
Um, you're kind of creating multiple versions of yourself by just getting offhand jobs working before you start the hands-on jobs. so to speak.
Yeah. And I wouldn't like to paint a picture that, it all runs smoothly. I remember our first lesson, I didn't realize that I shouldn't pour the pan over my laptop for you to have a look at.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
molten
I mean,
sugar.
but that's experience, you know. I mean, how are you to know that you don't pour boiling sugar over your laptop until you've done it once and broken your laptop? I mean, what do these people think we're, geniuses or something? Jesus Christ. I mean, you know,
Yeah. Um, One of my favorite classes was the one
that's
we
the
did at
problem with
Chris.
most teachers today. They expect you to know these things before you start. I mean, you know.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, one of my favorite classes was the buns we did at Christmas. Basically, it just felt like such a Christmassy treat to take a couple of hours out and just knead stuff. It was a joy.
Yeah, 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 definitely.
Mm.
Those are a treat. Um,
It's like
yeah, I know what you
is
mean.
pastry or buns or whatever, is that like a certain specialty of yours or just something you really love to do?
Um, well, I mean, I live at a place which is so passionate about them. Something I
Mm.
really like about Finland, and of course, like I often say, oh, I like about X about Finland, and it's probably the same for everywhere. But this is where I live. But certainly different to England is they love their like me- days of like um I don't know how do you explain them? It's like those um um days that are noted in like a calendar days,
Like
like,
a
oh, it's the
celebration
day.
day.
Yeah, something like that. There's one every week in Finland, and what they do is they put the flag up, the Finnish flag, and there's flagpoles everywhere here. And so
Mm.
you go outside, and it's like a joke because, oh shit, what flag day is it today? And it's like, oh, it's Runeberry paper. And it's like, who the hell is this? Oh, it's the poet. Oh, I was like, oh yeah, sure, yeah. How could I have forgotten it? So, yeah, Runeberry's Day, and they have a cake for it as well. It's a flag
Mm.
day, but they have a cake for it. And there's so many throughout the year. There's the Lent bun. There's
Mm.
the stuff they have at May Day. They have these monkey donuts on May Day. Um, on Runeberry and Paiva, there's this beautiful pastry with arak uh, liquor in it.
Oh, what's
Um,
Harriet
and
liquor?
arak, it tastes a bit like petrol. It's absolutely delicious. You know how really good Riesling,
Yeah.
like Australian Riesling tastes like petrol sometimes, and arak has a similar kind of thing going on. And it's this little pastry which is made of gingerbread breadcrumbs. It's really
Mm.
good. But so I
Mm.
guess pastry's been interest to me because there's so much of it. Here like cinnamon buns, cardamom buns, and all this kind of stuff. So that's been a really fun part of my newsletter, and I think people have enjoyed it um, uh,
What have
more
you
than any recipes I make. So it's been easy to be passionate about it, I suppose.
learned along the way doing these classes? Apart from
Well,
maybe
like
like
I
how to
said, I
use the
started.
camera.
Well, I was actually pretty impressed by how simple it is, but technology, so that's it's in the, it's uh, um, yeah, I mean, so it's been easy to kind of figure out that way. I mean, I figured it out and I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, it's been fun along the way. Like, I always wanted to do like a bun class, and the first one I did was just so much fun. I was doing it with an absolutely awesome, like I said, everybody who's been getting involved has been so much fun. And when I was really figuring it out, I've been very understanding. But the first class I tried to like do the buns with, it was like, man, I really hadn't figured out the timing at all because it was like, yeah, let's just fucking make some buns, bro. And it was like, well, making buns takes hours, and you've got like an hour and a half to do this. It's like, so I'm thinking I didn't care about that. So we started making the buns, and I had this amazing guy in like California turning his oven on like an hour early. So his kitchen is like a sauna. And then obviously, that was 2 hours on. And it was like, okay, so we're half an hour past, I was, let's, so we hung up for like an hour while the the fella's dough was rising, and then we kept on going. It's like a 3.5 hour class, which was supposed to be an hour and a half. So I mean, hopefully I've learned, and now I do that class and I do it all backwards, and we prepare a dough beforehand. We're being clever and professional about it, and it's all fun. And you did that one at Christmas, so you know it works a bit better than that now.
Yeah,
So there's been
definitely.
plenty to learn. Teaching in a restaurant kitchen is obviously you're all doing it. You've got 16 hours to do everything. You don't need to think about these logistics. But now hopefully it's a little bit more structured and and obviously these classes I've offered, I've done several times now, so the preparation is a little bit more streamlined. And
Mhm.
I mean, goodness, when I was first doing these classes, the preparation would take infinitely longer than the class itself. So it was
Mm.
quite an investment in time. So now hopefully
Mm.
it's all getting a lot more um, professional and yeah. So there's been plenty to learn, but yeah, that's why I did a very soft launch with you know very low prices when I started,
Yeah, yeah.
just to make sure
Yes.
that the people who were helping me figure it all out weren't, it was reflected in what they were investing as well, because it was
Of
that kind of soft
course.
launch.
Yeah. I think my kind of favorite reflection about the bun classes in particular is, or even just when you're kind of chopping something, um, it's just that we can chat or we can be quiet while we do it. Like you've got the space, the time, there's no pressure. I mean, there's nothing nicer than slapping a bit of wet dough on the counter.
Yeah,
Just,
definitely,
really work out some
definitely.
aggression.
Yeah, and what's been interesting along the way is how different, really seeing firsthand how different ingredients and things behave place to place. I mean, obviously, there could well be a difference in the quark. I use this fresh cheese, a very kind of
Mm,
Eastern European fresh cheese that I get compared to something that somebody might get in California. I mean, I have no idea how, but um, one time when I was making this pastry cream with quark for one of these bun classes, it totally uh, behaved differently, and that's really hard to account for or foresee. And so it's been great. I suppose the benefit of a class like this is to be online with the person who is dealing with this strange event, um, that you can fix it. Because all of cooking, good cooking is not foams and gels and tweels and stuff. It's fixing when it goes wrong.
mm,
You know, good chefs don't, scream and shout and wear tight shirts and have many tweezers in their pockets. Well, a good chef is just somebody who knows how to fix things.
mm,
Um, a good chef doesn't even have to be incredibly creative and come up with new things, but knowing how to fix a weird cream sauce or a split hollandaise, that's what
mm,
makes a great cook. And so being online, I said to one person in a cooking class that if anything goes wrong, that's just a really great thing for us, because there's just another thing we're going to learn, which is how to fix it.
mm,
Um, and that's what experience is. That when you're a young cook, you get everything from mistakes. That's where we learn from.
mm. I did have a question in advance, so let's see what you think to this. So this person always relied on sugar to get through stress, and every time they know they have to focus, it's like cup of hot chocolate and a Mars bar. Get down to it, and that'll help me sit
Mhm.
still and focus. Um, and or eating an entire packet of biscuits because it's just the easy thing to do. And trying things like those lion's manes or those disgusting green powders that you drink to kind of help put in the vitamins along the way. And I guess she's asking what would work, rather than just heading straight to sugar. I mean, I've got some opinions, but what do you think? Well,
Yeah, I mean, I know what this person is talking about.
mm,
food
Most
is
definitely.
and always has been. I once worked with a guy and I'd never really heard this before. He said, "It's not that I love food; I love to eat."
Mm,
The act. He said, "I love the act of eating," and uh, I've never forgotten that. I was working with a guy in a Soho advertising agency when he said that to me, like 15 years ago. I've never forgotten it, and there is something so comforting, at least to me, and clearly this guy. Although I love food and the act of eating, I suppose, and
mm,
um, and it's hard, and for me, I often, I need to, yeah, uh, I know that, um, I have to work at, stopping myself because, I love food so much. I love
mm.
cooking, the most extravagant of the French sauces and which are basically just like a teaspoon of water and a stick of butter. So I get what this person is saying.
Mm,
And I mean, I suppose the problem with her question, well, the answer to the question is that it's largely, chemical. It's chemistry. Your body needs that sugar.
mm,
Um, I love what this Michael Pollan guy said. That's for sure. Which is, have what you want, but make it yourself. And
mm,
there's a certain. What I like about it is I can convince myself of a certain kind of what's the word um when you get permission. I swear I forget so many English words now that I'm trying to learn Finnish. Um, it's a kind of you get the permission because you've put that effort into it in the process, and you're not part of the system, which is forcing ridiculous amounts of sugar into you and making it
mm,
so hard to eat only things that are you know the best for your body.
mm,
So maybe that's somewhere. It's certainly something I return to when I just want to eat a bar of chocolate or overeat too much chocolate, etc., etc. I try and invest again in
mm,
making those buns, and maybe it's nothing, maybe it's horseshit, but it's something that I try to you know wait for and restrain, and then cook for
mm,
myself when it comes to that sweet, comforting stuff.
mm,
Um, Having said that, I mean, this is probably stupid, but and I'm not a nutritionist, so I can't really talk about much. But I've recently started eating dates for the first time in my life. I'm 40 in a
mhm.
few months, and I don't know about you, but I I basically had my first date about 2 months ago, and I can't stop thinking about how great bejeweled dates are now. So, I mean, I'm maybe not, maybe I'm the only guy who hasn't had a date before. But I can't get over how good dates are. Medjool dates, like they taste
Mm,
like treacle tart. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
The stuff made
mm.
with golden syrup. So I'm trying to go with dates now instead of chocolate, and I think it's making me happier. So maybe that's something as well.
No, I love that. Maybe, an extra special date is a dark chocolate dip date.
Say that again.
Maybe an extra special date is a dark chocolate dipped date.
Maybe. Frankly, that sounds like too much to me. But I'm not judging anyone around here, so you do what you like to do. But I maybe I'm being sore about this because I was in Stockholm recently and I saw these dates everywhere, and they're like sour apple dates and strawberry dates and licorice dates. And I'm just coming off like a date trip at the moment, and I'm thinking about how great natural dates are. So I was like, I took a real umbrage with that and kind of offense almost. But
Yeah.
but it's cute. Now my kids keep taking the piss out of me for wanting dates all the time. So that's fun. Anything to make the evening go a little faster, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I know that urge to just sit there and eat a packet of biscuits for sure, and I've done it many times in my life when I've felt stressed or under pressure or like I need to focus. But what I have found is it's just such a short term high. And then you
Yeah,
feel shit afterwards as well.
yeah, yeah.
And
I
so
agree. I know what
I
you mean.
I head to whole stuff now. So like I head to nuts or chocolate covered nuts, like whatever, but something that's just going to be a little bit more satisfying in the moment. But um, I just, I've just changed so much how I think about food recently because I know that I just get hungry and mean. if I'm hungry. And
Yeah.
if I'm stimulated by sugar, then I'm even faster to hunger. It's not helping the hunger, it's making it so much worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I find me personally, I need, if I don't get like structured with it, then anything goes. I'm kind of all or nothing.
Yeah.
So I just try to stick with like, you know, eat 3 times a day. Pretty much make it yourself, and I'm hoping for the best. But
Mm,
I mean, it's either that or just absolutely eat nothing but salad, and I
yeah.
can't keep that up for long.
No, it's misery when you just, expected to do that. We are almost at time. I can't believe when this 45 minutes has gone. I know people have
Well,
places to be.
I go on a bit. I'm sorry, but yeah.
But before we leave, have you got anything you would like to add, Will?
Um, well, not really. I mean, it's a pleasure to be. I've not done anything like this before. It's lovely to talk to you. And
Mm,
it's been nice to revisit some of the ideas behind what I've been doing with particularly with these classes. It's you know you don't dwell on every element of something of all the
mm,
projects you do. So getting some of your feedback's been really helpful.
mm.
And yeah,
I think I'd say to anyone who is thinking of booking a class, um, uh, well, number one, it's an investment in yourself. Make it. But number two, it's just very chill and very low stakes and not something that you have to feel worried about. It's just a really nice thing to do. So if people want to find you on Substack, if they don't know you already, it's Wil Reidie's Winter Book. I'm l@bradleycox.com. It was lovely to see you. Thanks, Will.
thank you. Speak to you soon, I'm sure.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.